Hi, today I'm going to be talking about two different meds that I've been on and that I've used to help me sleep. I've had lifelong insomnia, and when I was 15 years old, 14 or 15 years old, I started taking meds for sleep after having nights and nights of just being, sleep, just nights and nights of sleeplessness. Then it started getting to me when I was older. When I was younger, the sleeplessness wasn't so much of a problem. I still had energy, but as I got older, grade six, it started interfering with my waking life. So I'm going to go over two different meds that I've been on, compare and contrast them, go over side effects, which is better in a given scenario, which is worse in a given scenario for sleep. So the two meds I'm going to be talking about is, first one is Trazodone, which is what you'll hear a lot about. And the second one is Mirtazapine. So I've been on each of these meds for 4 years. I started with Trazodone, and after that I moved to Mirtazapine. Okay, so let's start with Trazodone. When you go to your GP, he or she is most likely going to prescribe Z drugs, Lunesta or Ambien, when you have sleep problems. These drugs are indicated for insomnia, and most GPs are comfortable with selling you brand name drugs that are indicated specifically for sleep. However, if you go to a knowledgeable psychiatrist, he or she is more likely going to prescribe something like Trazodone, which is probably the number one off-label med prescribed for sleep. Trazodone is a mild antidepressant with heavily sedating properties, and that's why it's used for sleep off-label. So Trazodone has a relatively short half-life of 5 to 10 hours. So this is a little bit of a drawback. It kicks in very fast. About a half an hour to 45 minutes, you should already start to feel sedated from Trazodone. But the drawback is towards the morning, after you slept. Sometimes the sedation could be light and you might wake up. It might not make you sleep throughout the night. This is fairly rare. People generally sleep throughout the night very nicely on Trazodone and have for many years. But I'm going to describe later how this side effects kind of made me switch to Mirtazapine. It's not such a big deal in retrospect. Okay, so side effects of Trazodone. Like I said, heavy sedation, feeling very physically heavy in your body. So when first starting Trazodone, you might want to stay in bed while the medication kicks in, because if you stand up, you might feel very faint and might walk into walls. You might feel very droopy and heavy and zombie-like. So maybe stay in bed for the first couple of days. Doses of Trazodone, generally for sleep, it's probably 50, 75 to 100 milligrams. The initial starting dose for depression is 150 milligrams. However, if you're taking 150 milligrams of Trazodone the first night that you take the medication, you're going to have quite a hard time waking up the next morning, and you're going to feel like crap and have a kind of nauseous type hangover feeling. So Trazodone should start helping you sleep when you take it at doses of 50 to 100 within 1 to 2 nights. It might take a little longer than that to kind of get used to. I like talking about the type of sedation that Trazodone causes. Because it's different from Z drugs and Mirtazapine. There's a different mechanism of action. So it might actually take you a while to get used to taking advantage of the kind of sedation that Trazodone causes, which is apparently less of a histamine action and more of a norepinephrine action. Okay, so side effects. When first starting Trazodone, it inflames your nasal passages, or just causes them to swell for a bit. So people feel the need to blow their nose in the middle of the night, but this doesn't really help because it's actually the tissues in your nasal passages that are kind of swollen. So a lot of people kind of breathe through their mouth when first starting Trazodone, it could stuff you up pretty well. And it kind of makes you snore a little bit. You're kind of gagging, like on your, like just because your nose is kind of clogged a bit. So it makes your nose and head feel a little pasty. But at least for me, the nasal passage side effect went away. Major side effect for guys, and this is generally the one that people freak out about most, is priapism, which is an erection lasting longer than 4 hours. And I think they said about 30%, or it might be more, 30% of people who get priapism from Trazodone require surgical intervention. But regardless, if you have an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, it's a medical emergency. You have to go to the emergency department. This is not something that can go away on its own. It can, but if it's bad enough, the longer you wait before you start getting help for priapism, the longer you're likely to have erectile dysfunction in the future, and that's proportional to the amount of time you wait from first getting priapism. So yeah, so don't be embarrassed about that. If it happens, go to the emergency department right away. That being said, it's a very rare side effect, and although I've painted it in a very negative and scary light, that shouldn't dissuade you from trying mirtazapine in the first place if you're sleeping. If you have insomnia, it's very rare. From the stuff I've read online, it's only case reports that I've seen that mention priapism. So fairly rare. Start at a low dose, 25 to 50 milligrams. It's just my idea that might be less of a risk then. Okay, but anyway, mirtazapine is a good med. So now I'm going to move on to, sorry, did I say mirtazapine? Trazodone. Now I'm going to move on to mirtazapine. Mirtazapine has a half-life of 42 hours, so you could imagine that if it's causing sedation, it will make you sleep throughout the night. Luckily, this sedative side effect doesn't enter the next day, really. So really, when you're done with the night, for most people, you wake up refreshed and you're not sedated throughout the day. Even some of the side effects that I'm going to be talking about with mirtazapine doesn't stick with you the next morning. So mirtazapine works through a different action than Trazodone. Mirtazapine is a very strong antihistamine, and they believe that's how it helps you sleep, as well as some of the serotonin action. So mirtazapine is actually a stronger antidepressant than Trazodone. So if you have moderate to severe depression and you have insomnia, and you're considering between Trazodone and mirtazapine, why not kill two birds with one stone and go with the mirtazapine, which has the stronger antidepressant potential. It's an atypical antidepressant. It's not an SSRI, not an SNRI, not a tricyclic, not an MAO inhibitor, not an NDRI like Wellbutrin. It's an indirect serotonin agonist rather than a serotonin transporter inhibitor. Anyway, so mirtazapine, side effects. The major one that people complain of is weight gain. And this isn't a weight gain that y'all just step on a scale and be surprised that, oh, I gained a couple of pounds. You'll know exactly the mechanism for the weight gain. It makes you crave food like crazy. Like I said, luckily this side effect didn't follow me to the next morning. But it is so strong. These munchies that you get from mirtazapine. So let's say I want to go to bed. I'll take it an hour before I lie down and intend to go to sleep. And let's say I'll brush my teeth. I'll be lying down in bed, and the last thing I want to do is eat. I still have fresh taste of toothpaste in my mouth and no hunger pains at all. I just don't want to eat anything, and I'm ready for bed. So yeah, an hour into it, that kind of changes. You start going, I could really go for some ice cream, or just like something sweet, or like starches. And sometimes it's like you need to do it. Like you can't stop thinking about the food. Like it makes you get up. So I'll get up, go down to the kitchen, and just eat. Like in a daze. Like I don't do anything. I just food, and I'm just eating ice cream. I've eaten a liter of ice cream in 15 minutes. On this med. You have to have a lot of willpower to avoid this side effect. I imagine this is stronger at higher doses. I'm going to explain dosages in a minute, but generally people complain about this whole weight gain, this whole munchies side effect, which is very, very strong. And the bad part about it is it's not normal hunger. You're only satiated when your stomach is full of food and you're physically sick and say, I can't physically eat anymore. You have to get to that level. It's not just like you eat a bit and that satisfies it. You need to like fill your stomach up in order to say, okay, I don't want to eat anymore. Let's go to bed now. So, and you'll be sedated while you're eating too. It's very strange. So hopefully the sedative effect will be stronger in someone, and it'll maybe overcome the munchies, and they'll go to bed right away rather than start entertaining suggestions for food because they're staying up a little late. So yeah, so my suggestion if you get munchies from Mirtazapine is even before it starts sedating you, lie down and try to go to sleep. You're not gonna, I mean, if you have bad insomnia, you're not gonna sleep until the med officially kicks in. But I think it's good to get your body into the mode of okay, let's go to sleep. So try not to stay up and do other activities and just wait for the sedative effects, because the munchies are going to kick in before the sedation and they're very strong. So dosages of Mirtazapine, 15 milligrams, 30 milligrams, and 45 milligrams. Highest dose is 45 milligrams. When you go online and you're going to read about Mirtazapine being prescribed off-label for insomnia, you're going to start reading on how lower doses are more sedating than higher doses. And when you look into why, it's going to say something like the norepinephrine action kicks in at higher doses, which is a little stimulating. So maybe like a dose of 45 milligrams will result in sleep, not as, it won't be as heavily sedating as doses of 15 milligrams or lower doses. I personally don't agree with this side effect. It might hold at the beginning when you're first starting Mirtazapine. Let's say you're just taking 45 milligrams off the bat, because you're not used to the norepinephrine action. However, if you slowly titrate up the dose that you've been on 15, then 30 milligrams, then 45 milligrams, and for a while at each dosage, it should theoretically cause increased sedation as you're taking more of the substance, and it's causing more histamine blocking action and more sedation. So for me that might have been an initial side effect or an initial effect of increased stimulation at higher doses, but no, for me definitely 45 milligrams is more sedating than 15, definitely. So I don't go by that whole thing. I mean, at least that's my suggestion. It almost seems too good to be true, and that's just my opinion. But like I said, that's not in accordance with my experience on Mirtazapine. Side effects besides the weight gain, apparently ankle swelling. I've heard that being thrown around for a while now. Never happened to me. But yeah, other than that, it's a great med. It makes me sleep throughout the night. And another thing is I've never had to really increase the dose. I've been on this med for 4 years now, and it works just as well as it had been in the past. So unlike Trazodone, which I developed a tolerance to, and needed to take another half tablet in the middle of the night. That has not happened with Mirtazapine, and it's been a great med. The only reason I have these 2 prescriptions right here is because I was actually considering going back on Mirtazapine because of the weight gain. But I'm a pretty thin guy, and I mean, it's not so bad. And if you get a tolerance from Trazodone, it's not so bad making a routine of getting up, if you wake up in the night to take another half tablet. It's not the end of the world. It really isn't. So So don't let trazodone tolerance make you choose an entirely different med just because you need to get up once in the night to take another half tablet. That's the only drawback for me with trazodone at the moment. Other than that, I'd rather not withdraw from mirtazapine. Just because I've been on it so long, and I tried a couple of days of this, but I missed my mirtazapine. That's the only reason why I went back on this med. Suffice to say that mirtazapine is more sedating than trazodone. Definitely. This is what I mean. In my case, that this is true. So that's something you might want to take into account. So mirtazapine might be stronger if you need a stronger sedative for sleep. They're both pretty strong. Don't get me wrong. They're both pretty effective medications. So yeah, that's all I can think about with these two meds. If you have any questions, just comment below, and I'll try and be happy to answer them. Yeah, thanks for watching.